And in the season finale, the girls return back with Javi's body, and the only thing that Natalie can muster to Travis is the wilderness chose. Natalie's pretty broken up about this, and as you can imagine, so is Travis. He finally got his brother back, only for his brother to die. Natalie tries to explain to him what happened, but he just doesn't want to hear it. And the rest of the girls, they're just focused on the fact that they now have food. Shauna is going to prepare Javi's body, and while she's doing that, Misty goes to check on Lottie, and Lottie asks, why was Travis screaming? And Misty explains that they kill Javi in order to eat him to stay alive. Misty goes through exactly how they chose, what happened with Natalie, and how Javi ended up dying, so they just accepted it. And that's not what Lottie wanted at all. She gets really upset when Misty explains that they killed Javi to keep her alive. They didn't want their leader to die. Lottie looks at Misty and says, how could you let this happen? And Misty says, how could I let it happen? Lottie, you started this. It's done, and it's going to save all of our lives. Misty then heads back downstairs and lies to the girls, telling them that Lottie is pleased with the wilderness's choice. And the fact that Lottie has given her blessing, or at least the girls think that she has, turns a lot of frowns upside down. Now, this whole time, Ben has been missing. He was at the location of where Javi was camped out. And when he returns, he sees that Shauna is chopping up meat, and it doesn't take him too long to figure out that it's Javi. The first person he actually talks to, though, is Natalie. And he excitedly tells her about Javi's hideout, saying we could go there. We could spend the rest of the winter there. We would survive. Because me and you, we're not built like them. They're off their rocker. But Natalie doesn't take him up on the offer and says, no, coach, actually I'm worse. Because it was supposed to be me, and I just let him die. She then looks him dead in the eye and says, you're a good person, coach. You really don't belong in this place. Later that day, when no one's looking, Ben steals a lot of supplies, including rope, matches, and he heads to that cave by himself. While Natalie was talking to Ben inside the cabin, Travis is really upset, and he tells Van, you should be ashamed of yourself. But Van is actually seemingly happy about this. She says, I'm not ashamed of myself because I'm surviving, and I don't think any of us should be ashamed of surviving. She then tries to convince Travis on why he should eat Javi, and how eating Javi would actually honor his life, because Javi gave his life to keep his brother alive, and to waste that, well, that would just be disrespectful. So later that night, when Shauna comes in with some of the meat from Javi, she hands over his heart to Travis. And none of the girls know what Travis is about to do, but he surprises all of them by taking a bite out of it. He then throws it in a hot skillet, and they all pour some of the meat into that skillet to cook it. They all start eating it once it's done, and Misty takes some up to Lottie. But Lottie doesn't want to eat it. And Misty tries to convince her to take it, saying that she needs her strength. Lottie just shakes her head and tells Misty, I thought that it wanted what was best for us, but now I'm not so sure. Misty doesn't want to hear that, though. She says, end? Your team needs you right now. Eat. And it's not a request. So Lottie eats. Once everybody's done, they just decide to start telling stories. And Van starts telling a story that seems like it's made up, but in reality, it's the origin of the cabin. And in the middle of it, Lottie interjects and says, I never wanted to be in charge, but I felt like it chose me because I knew how to listen. But now I don't hear it anymore. And I think it's because I've taught you all to listen to it. So I think you need a new leader. Now, none of them want to accept the fact that Lottie is stepping down, but she doesn't give them a choice. And she elects Natalie to be the new leader, saying that it's obvious. The wilderness saved Natalie and saved her for this reason. Lottie then walks over to Natalie and kisses her hand like a subject would to a queen. And then one by one, they all start following suit. But outside, Ben had actually returned. He wanted some more supplies. And he's horrified by what he's looking at. He's looking at these girls going through a ritual after eating one of their friends. It's clear to Ben that these people in the cabin are evil at this point. They're too far gone. They're beyond being saved. So maybe he's the reason why the cabin lit on fire that night. But that night, Shauna wakes up to the smell of smoke and tells everybody that they got to get the hell out of there. The doors are locked, though, so it takes a little bit of effort to actually free themselves. But once they do, one by one, they pile out of the cabin, saving what they can, and then they just have to watch it burn. And Ben is nowhere to be found. Now, present day, nobody's real keen on drinking Lottie's poison shots. They start going back and forth with Lottie, arguing with her, until Shauna steps up and says, I actually agree with Lottie. She's right. If we want to get rid of this, we have to do things the way we used to. But that doesn't mean taking shots. We should give it a hunt. Most of the girls at this point think that Shauna has joined Lottie by being crazy. And it certainly doesn't help the fact that Lottie goes over, gives Shauna a big hug while just repeating, yes, thank you. Because Lottie finally has somebody on her side, while the rest of the room is just shocked that Shauna has joined that side. Shauna, though, gives all the girls a look like, hey, I'm just telling Lottie what she wants to hear. So one by one, they start agreeing that this is a good idea, knowing that they're not actually going to go through with it. It's just getting Lottie off of the poison shots. Shauna turns to Lottie and tells her that they need to make sure none of the people at the commune are awake for this. They need the woods. And Lottie says, yeah, no problem, and starts going through the commune to make sure everyone's going to be asleep. Once Lottie leaves, Shauna tells the group, okay, I just bought us some time, but we got to figure out what to do with her. Most of them want to just admit her. With her previous history, it wouldn't be that hard. But Natalie says, yeah, she just wanted us to drink poison shots. I don't think simply admitting her is going to get it done. She says, yeah, we all went through it out there, but we got over it. She didn't. I mean, she's over here thinking that it's talking to her. Did we all forget where that leads? So it's kind of split. The plan is to admit Natalie, but it's also to prepare in a weird way for a hunt. So the girls kind of all split up. The first place that Natalie goes is to meet with Lisa and tell her, you got to get out of here. But she can't give her any details, and that piques Lisa's interest. Misty, meanwhile, went to go get her cell phone. Although she heard somebody coming, she hid. Her cell phone started buzzing, and it turns out that the person that was in the room was Walter. He showed up to help out. He's got a whole plan laid out on how to get this situation under control, and Misty goes along with it. His plan is going to include some other surprising visitors to the commune, Kevin and Matt. They were tailing Jeff and Callie, who have also shown up, and they're running around somewhere. But they couldn't figure out where Shauna was, so they decided to tail those two, thinking that maybe they would lead them to Shauna's location. So you've got Kevin and Matt looking for Shauna, but also Jeff and Callie. And when Jeff and Callie look into a window and see Kevin there, they're pretty surprised, and they got to figure out what to do. So Jeff walks in, interrupting a conversation with Kevin and Walter. His improvised plan is to admit that he was the one who killed Adam Martin. But before Kevin can actually arrest him, Kevin collapses. That's because Walter drugged Kevin. Jeff's a little freaked out, but Walter comes out of the shadows, introduces himself very calmly, and then demands that Jeff help him get this body out of there before they're caught. They take Kevin's body and throw it into the trunk, and then they end up calling Matt, who at this point has located Callie. But they freak Matt out because Walter, while talking with Kevin, had been secretly recording him. So he just starts replaying Kevin's voice into the phone, and it gets Matt pretty concerned. When this happens, he completely bails on Callie and starts searching for Kevin. He eventually locates the trunk where Kevin's body is, and when he opens it up, Walter sneaks up, grabs Matt's gun, and shoots Kevin. He then explains to him that he's giving him an out on this. Because what Walter's been able to do is set it up like Kevin was the bad guy all along. He's got bank records indicating that it was Kevin who killed Adam Martin. And not only that, but he also killed Jessica Roberts. Now, the option that Walter is giving Matt is to be the hero. Make it look like he uncovered all of this. If he doesn't want to do it, Walter can also point the smoking gun to Matt's direction. They then both hear sirens because Walter took the liberty of alerting the local police that there was a matter at the commune. So Matt doesn't have a lot of time to figure out what he wants to do. Now, while all of that madness was going on, the girls were going through the ceremony. You had some of them waiting for a hospital psych team to show up and take Lottie away. That psych team, though, wasn't going to show up. That's because Van convinced Taissa to call them off. She played to the fact that Taissa is also going through something, and if Lottie should be admitted, then so should Taissa. Van just didn't believe that admitting Lottie would actually do her any good whatsoever. So you've got somebody like Shauna trying to delay this as long as possible, not realizing that the cavalry is not arriving. And after a while, Lottie and also Van get a little restless, and they want to get through the whole ceremony of choosing the card and figuring out who has the queen. One by one, they go around until finally it is Shauna who pulls the queen out. The rest of them, seeing that Shauna is the one who's drawn the card, casually go over, grab the masks that were made earlier in the day, and put them on. And then they ask Shauna, do you want to submit or do you want to run? Now, Shauna can't believe they're actually going to do this. She thinks they're all nuts. But nobody says anything. They kind of just let Lottie do most of the talking. And when Shauna tries to walk away, Lottie takes that as Shauna's running. So she runs after her. She doesn't catch her, though. She ends up getting shot by Callie, who used the gun that was stashed in the minivan's glove box. Callie comes out of the woods to save her mother, and it's a bullet to the shoulder, so it's one that Lottie will survive. But Lottie's not even mad. She's just more blown away that she's meeting Callie for the first time. In fact, all the girls are pretty taken aback by this. When they all take off their masks, Lottie shushes all of them and says, "It's here. It's with us right now." Shauna yells, "Misty, where is this psych team?" And that's when Van and Taissa come clean that the psych team ain't coming. Van starts pointing out that she feels like Lottie is screwed up because of what they did in the woods. It's their fault, and they can't abandon her. That's when out of nowhere, Lisa shows up holding a shotgun, demanding some answers. She's looking at her hero in Lottie, who is in a complete whacked out state. Natalie tries to get Lisa to put the gun down, and Misty, who is looking at her friend with a gun pointed at her, wants to try to jump into action and save her life. Misty has a syringe with a poison in it that will absolutely kill Lisa the moment she injects it. But when she goes to make a beeline for Lisa's neck, it's Natalie who steps in the way and takes it. As Natalie is slipping away, she finds herself in a completely empty plane. She doesn't think she should be there, and it's her younger self who says, "Well, this is exactly where you belong. We've been here for years." Then young Javi tells her that there's nothing to be afraid of. In the real world, though, she is dying, and Misty is really upset about it. But the wilderness is clearly chosen again. When the cops show up, they take out Natalie's body, and to the general public, it looks like it was a drug overdose. Lottie is also taken away. She's admitted to a psych ward, and Van and Taissa both tell her that they will visit her to make sure she's doing better. Matt ends up taking Walter up on his offer of exposing Kevin as the killer for both Adam Martin and Jessica Roberts, and then he goes over to Misty and excitedly tells her, "I took care of it." But Misty is so upset because, as she tells Walter, "I just killed my best friend." And Walter has to console her. Shauna is also pretty upset about the fact that Natalie died, but they're all huddled around when they hear Lottie say, "It is pleased with us." And that is the end of Season 2 of Yellowjackets. Thank you so much for getting this part of the recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. Be nice in the comments section. If I mess something up, okay, fine. Mistakes happen. Get over it. Just hit thumbs down. Move on. I have merch. I have t-shirts. I have a Patreon. I have a bunch of ways you can help me out and give me money. But, hey, you watch this, and that's enough for me.